Hello, I'm Maria Titizian.
And I'm Rubina Margosian, and this is the Week in Review.
Every week, we bring you the stories shaping Armenia and the region.
From politics and policy to social issues and conflict, we break down the news and what it means for you.
This week in the news, church-state standoff continues. One mayor arrested at airport, another charged with corruption. And Armenia to lift restrictions on transit of cargo to Azerbaijan. These stories and more in our weekly roundup of the news.
The standoff between Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and the leadership of the Armenian Apostolic Church continues. On Sunday, Pashinyan and members of his cabinet attended Mass at Hovanavang Monastery, conducted by Father Aram Asatarian, a priest who was officially defrocked on October 21 by the Mother See for discrediting the church and ignoring its disciplinary proceedings. The church called the service at Hovanavang as illegitimate. Before attending, Pashinyan described the liturgy as the start of the practical phase of liberating the Mother See from Garagin II, arguing that under church canons, the Catholicos cannot be considered legitimate because he violated the vow of celibacy and cannot lawfully remain as Catholicos and therefore cannot defrock others. During the liturgy, a man shouted that Asatarian had no right to conduct the service. Security removed him and police were stationed around the monastery to prevent clashes. Pashinyan said he plans to attend the next service again next Sunday. Well, this priest is the same priest that we had audio recording of a couple of weeks ago, where he was in a conversation with a higher up saying the Catholicos had made him go to opposition rallies and had instructed him to take his family, that he hadn't, and then he was being punished. Just for context, he was being punished for not obeying. And the security forces remain in Hovanavang to this day to kind of observe.
Well, more in church news. Before the Hovanavang service, to be polite, a compromising video, allegedly of Archbishop Arshak Khachadurian, was released on a newly opened Telegram channel. Not to say that it was something akin to a sex tape, I guess. He's with another woman in the tape. Following the release of the video, pro-government media reported that the Archbishop Arshak had demanded the Catholicos' resignation, suggesting he stepped down voluntarily before details about violations within the church hierarchy became public. Now, a lot of the sort of pro-government media speculated that the video originated from inside the Mother See. So there's
two sides, both sides are saying something. We still don't know the origins of the video.
No. And, the Archbishop dismissed the leaked video and allegations as fabrications meant to discredit him and the church, suggesting the campaign was politically motivated and orchestrated by the Prime Minister. He accused authorities of using familiar tactics, weakening the church, discrediting clergy, dividing the public, spreading fear, but expressed confidence that these efforts would fail. And tensions between Pashinyan and the Catholicos, just again for context, escalated in May when the Prime Minister hinted on social media that he possessed compromising information about a cleric and later suggested he held other materials concerning church leadership that could be made public if necessary. Well, human rights defender Anait Manasyan condemned the publication of the video as a serious breach of privacy and personal data protection. She noted that such violations are widespread in Armenia, particularly in high-profile cases, and urged state bodies to investigate thoroughly and hold those responsible accountable. The investigative committee, meanwhile, has launched criminal proceedings under provisions covering violations of privacy and the use of special technical means for secret information collection. Anyway.
So up till now, we don't know if what the pro-government media said that the Archbishop had called on the Catholicos to resign is true or not, because they have not provided any sources.
No, and the Archbishop himself denied it.
He denied it, saying it's possible that they recorded me in secret, but it's also... he also said that the rest of the content could be AI generated.
This is the thing now, right? Yeah. Ruby, not everybody can claim it's AI generated.
Yeah, he didn't rule out that he was secretly recorded.
Right.
But he said, well, It's an ongoing
it's
situation.
A word we don't want to use.
Yes, and about these recordings, we talk about them in at the office a lot, because a lot of the times when there's a leak, we don't know the source. There are several cases that we know it was the National Security Service because they had said so, but a lot of the time it's not clear, and it's becoming a concern for
and more
a lot
commonly
of
used. And this really is very, very concerning. Yeah.
Well, more local news. Masis Mayor David Hambartumian was arrested at the airport immediately after returning from Moscow. Last week, he was sentenced to 6 years and 3 months in prison for using, armed force against protesters during the 2018 revolution.
Yes, please explain this, Rubina, for our listeners.
Initially, he was charged with armed hooliganism under the old criminal code, by the way. According to his lawyer, the testimonies against him didn't hold. None of the witnesses appeared in court to testify, but still he was kind of sentenced.
Kind of.
He was sentenced. His lawyer is also saying that under the 2018 amnesty law, he would have been granted
a pardon.
Yes, if his sentence was 6 years or less, but the judicial system went for a longer sentence just so that he wouldn't come under the law.
But I think for me, the most fascinating thing, we had this conversation before the recording, is that he was actually
charged in 2018.
Charged 2019 February. No, sorry.
Investigation was concluded 2019 February.
No, the court said he's guilty in February 2019. The sentencing happened just this week. So 6 years later.
We have another case like that regarding Arat Mirzoyan and people
which we'll talk about in a minute.
6 years later, almost 6 years later, 5 years in this case. Well, back to David Hambartumian's case. In June, Hambartumian was chosen as the opposition's candidate to replace Nikol Pashinyan in yet another non-confidence procedure in parliament, and we've had several of those. None of them have gone anywhere. Former President Sargsyan, head of the Republican Party, called the sentence politically motivated and said Hambartumian will remain the opposition's candidate for prime minister
in case of a impeachment.
No,
right.
We're not.
Let's make it clear. Yeah. 6 months out.
Well, Hambartumian has already given up his seat in City Hall, so.
In Masis City Hall,
in Masis, yes. Another opposition mayor was presented with criminal charges this week. Buregavan mayor Jacob Balassian has been charged with abuse of official power in 9 cases related to the illegal alienation of land through sham auctions. The Anti-Corruption Committee has also imposed a travel ban and suspended him from office as a preventative measure. Balassian has led Buregavan since 2008 and was most recently re-elected in 2022 on the Unity Alliance list, which includes the Prosperous Armenia Party and Democratic Alternative Party.
Coming back to the other case you were just mentioning, Rubina, Torkom Asadarian, accused of beating then Parliament Speaker Ararat Mirzoyan on the night of November 9, 2020, has been sentenced to 5 years and 6 months in prison for the assault. Again, the attack took place that night, late November 9, morning of November 10, shortly after the signing of the trilateral statement that ended the 44-day war. Following the announcement, mass protests and riots erupted in Yerevan, with demonstrators storming government and parliament buildings. Mirzoyan was attacked by a group of people near the National Assembly while sitting in his car. He sustained multiple injuries, including damage to his eye. In May, Ara Badoyan, who was also accused of attacking Mirzoyan that night, was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison, but will serve just 11 months, having already spent about 2.5 years in pretrial detention. So these cases that are just, lagging in our justice system, this is what we've been talking.
Floating around for years.
And then all of a sudden,
And in Gyumri, new developments following the detention of Mayor Vartan Ghukasyan on corruption charges last week. Of the dozens detained at the time, 24 people will be held in pre-trial detention for allegedly interfering when police tried to arrest Ghukasyan. Among them, 3 members of the Gyumri Council from Ghukasyan's Communist Party faction. When law enforcement entered City Hall to conduct investigations, Ghukasyan supporters gathered outside in his defense, leading to a scuffle with the police. One of the arrested council members, Gevorg Ghukasyan, has applied to renounce his mandate, allowing another Communist Party member to take his place, a move aimed at preserving the opposition's majority in the council. The Communist Party holds, I can't believe again that I keep saying Communist Party, holds 8 seats in the 33-member city council, while Civil Contract has 14. The Our City Alliance has 6 seats, My Strong Community Alliance has 3, and the Mother Armenia Alliance has 2. Ghukasyan was elected mayor with 18 votes. The combined support of all opposition factions, with 3 communist members now in custody, the opposition holds 16 seats. To elect the new mayor, a candidate needs at least 17 votes.
Yeah, so it remains to be seen, and a very interesting development. Armenia's Anti-Corruption Committee has launched a criminal investigation into a possible violation of the ban on charitable activities during a pre-election period that happened in Varashapat. Recently, the case involves a charity event held just one day before the campaign for mayor officially began, an event attended by Argishti Mekhagyan, the ruling Civil Contract Party's candidate for mayor. Observers have raised concerns over transparency and weak enforcement of campaign finance rules. The Union of Informed Citizens also reported that some municipal employees were engaged in campaigning during work hours. Elections for the Varashabat Community Council are scheduled for November 16. A lot of municipal news, right? And
yes. Varashabat is Echmiadzin, and the former mayor resigned. Diana Gaspayan resigned, saying she would like to concentrate on her family, but there were also a lot of corruption charges against her family members from her husband's side at the time of her resignation. And ahead of next year's parliamentary elections, the ruling Civil Contract Party has announced it is opening nominations for its 2026 candidate list. Party members and non-members can self-nominate throughout November, the month of November, by submitting an application and biography to the party's email address. The Civil Contract Board will review applications in December, and candidates will be required to pay a nomination fee, 500,000 drams for party members and 1,500,000 drams for non-members. This is by early February. Board member and Social Affairs and Labor Minister Arsen Torosyan said the move reflects the party's commitment to transparency and democratic values, urging other political forces to follow suit. He added that the top 30 spots on the list will be decided by a vote at the party's upcoming primary, a process he called a direct manifestation of democracy.
And the 12th regular session of the Euronest Parliamentary Assembly took place in Yerevan this week, but delegations from Azerbaijan and Georgia did not participate. Azerbaijan's delegation cited European Parliament documents, it says, undermine its sovereignty and territorial integrity and obstruct the peace process with Armenia. Tahir Mirikshili, head of Azerbaijan's Euronest delegation, stressed that the decision was not due to the session being held in Armenia and noted ongoing efforts to normalize relations between the two countries. Azerbaijan had previously sent delegates to Euronest bureau and committee meetings in Yerevan in February of 2022. Georgia's parliamentary delegation also refrained from attending. Levan Markashvili, head of Georgia's Parliamentary Committee on European Integration, explained the absence by pointing to European Parliament support for the opposition in Georgia and unrest in the country. And also there was news, Rubina, that the Armenian delegation, or the ruling Civil Contract Party members of the delegation, had voted against some amendments to a resolution about the right of return of Artsak's population to Nagorno-Karabakh. This was reported by a number, let's just call them opposition media. It was reported by ARF member Artur Khachadurian, who's also on the parliamentary delegation to Euronest. So we spoke with someone at Civil Contract to clarify if this was the case. And this person told us that the government's position has been very clear that the right of return is not on the agenda because they feel it would be an impediment or problematic toward the peace process. So at the time it's not, but the issue of the detainees and POWs being held in Azerbaijan still are on the agenda. So we just wanted to clarify that one piece of information.
And this week, Prime Minister Pashinyan announced that Armenia will lift restrictions on the transit of cargo to Azerbaijan, mirroring Baku's recent decision to do the same. Last week, Ilham Aliyev said Azerbaijan had removed all transit restrictions for goods bound for Armenia. The first such shipment from wheat from Kazakhstan is now on the way, traveling by ship to Baku and then by rail to Azerbaijan and Georgia before reaching Armenia. Pashinyan called the move a small step towards opening regional communications. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department announced plans to set up the first working group with Armenia and Azerbaijan by the end of the year. Washington reaffirmed its commitment to implementing the declarations and memoranda signed in August. The State Department also praised Azerbaijan's decision to allow cargo transit to Armenia and the recent meeting of civil society representatives from both sides in Yerevan, saying these efforts could help attract private investment and open a new chapter of prosperity in the region.
While in France, attending the Paris Peace Forum, Prime Minister Nicole Pashinyan met with French President Emmanuel Macron. The two leaders reaffirmed the strategic importance of Armenia-France relations. They discussed cooperation in economy, infrastructure, and other key sectors. Macron congratulated Armenia on the establishment of peace with Azerbaijan and reiterated France's firm support for Armenia's sovereignty and lasting stability in the region. They also discussed the TRIP project. This is the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity, and efforts to reopen regional communication routes, as well as ways to further deepen Armenia's partnership with the European Union under the new cooperation agenda. Meanwhile, at the Peace Forum, Armenia, among 29 countries, adopted the Paris Declaration on Multilateral Action for Information Integrity and Independent Media and became a member of the new Consultative Committee of States. Thus, Armenia has recognized the need to support public interest media and endorsed the International Fund for Public Interest Media as the mechanism for that support.
Also this week, Armenia and Germany held bilateral defense consultations in Yerevan, co-chaired by senior defense officials from both countries. The sides reviewed the results of this year's cooperation, agreed on programs for 2026, and discussed international and regional security, including ongoing defense reforms. Both parties emphasized the importance of expanding collaboration with NATO and EU frameworks and agreed to broaden cooperation across several defense areas. Meanwhile, in more security news, Armenia will appoint a military attaché to Cyprus, a post that will be combined with that of the attaché in Greece, currently Lieutenant Colonel Armen Mirzabekian.
In other news, Romanos Bedrosian, the interim manager of the electric networks of Armenia, continues to uncover violations within the company. This week, ENA reported new cases found through a number of inspections across its regional branches, revealing widespread manipulation of electricity metering, from overcharging individual consumers, public institutions, and businesses to underreporting electricity produced by solar plants and falsifying data to hide technical losses in the network. In one regional branch alone, 727,000 kilowatt hours were falsely recorded on meters used only for the company's internal operations, allegedly on the direct orders of a supervisor. Meanwhile, the Electric Networks of Armenia has climbed the list of the country's top 1,000 taxpayers, moving from 21st to 18th place in the third quarter of 2025. According to the State Revenue Committee, the company paid 11.7 billion dirhams in taxes and fees between January and September, up from 7.7 billion in the first half of the year. And just as a reminder, Samvel Karabedyan, who is now in pretrial detention, who is charged with attempting to usurp power, was the owner of ENA, majority shareholder.
And the European Commission will provide 5 million euros to Armenia to help strengthen nuclear safety and radiation protection. The funding will focus on two main areas: improving safety at the Armenian nuclear power plant by implementing measures outlined in the national plan developed after its stress test, lessons that take into account the Fukushima accident, and supporting Armenia's nuclear regulatory bodies to enhance oversight and safety monitoring. These efforts will help ensure the plant meets international safety standards and that ongoing improvement programs are properly evaluated. Prime Minister Pashinyan has also announced that after the Medzamor plant is decommissioned in 2036, Armenia plans to move forward with building a small modular reactor. Consultations are already underway with several partner countries.
And the Justice Ministry announced that the European Union has transferred 5.5 million euros to Armenia's state budget to support justice sector reforms. I mean, we really need them. So
the justice sector is either kind of like behind a deadline or on coke.
Well, the funding provided as part of the EU support to justice sector reforms in Armenia was tied to progress in key areas, implementing judicial and anti-corruption strategies, expanding alternative dispute resolution, conducting integrity checks for prosecutors and investigators, and promoting non-custodial sentencing. Anyway, I don't know if 5.5 million euros is going to cut it, but hopefully it will. And as always, articles that we published this week, well, it was mostly salt.
Well, we say that sometimes we do, when we started the lifestyle, we said it's for breeders from all the content.
Yes.
But it's not only just for the readers, it's also for us.
Well, this month's issue of our lifestyle magazine, Salt, is called The Runway. And because it was Yerevan Fashion Week, and I can't believe we started Salt with Yerevan Fashion Week 2024. Yes. Now
our first issue was
and now this issue also is about Yerevan Fashion Week, but it's also the House Museum of Lusik Akuletsi, who transformed remembrance into a radical act of cultural resilience. It's about an abandoned clock factory reborn through the vision of some contemporary artists. As I said, the runways of Yerevan Fashion Week, and the story of how one person's initiative is transforming the face of the country because he's done some pretty amazing work with litter in the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have some beautiful photos by Lilith, who's sitting here
our
recording
podcast
here.
producer.
And she's also the author of one of the articles, Greener, Better, Brighter, The Quiet Revolution, the last one you were mentioning about cleaning up litter and how it's just not litter on the streets, it's also psychological litter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And pending one more story, photo story by Aram Girakosyan that's coming tomorrow. He's been backstage during watching the shows, different venues throughout the fashion week, and
some fabulous
photos coming up.
Right.
Yes.
So yeah, check out our Salt issue this month. And today we published a very personal piece, surprisingly, by Nerses Kopalyan, who usually does our security briefings, but it's called The Ontology of Violence, Growing Up Hayastansi in Los Angeles. Hayastansi means, for those who don't know, Armenians from Armenia. So it's a very raw exploration of excessive masculinity and violence within the Hayastansi subculture of 1990s Los Angeles. He looks at the ontological roots of aggression that shaped a generation and how that mentality has mutated into this, he calls an incoherent, hybridized identity in the decades since. It was, yeah.
And also, any article with the word ontology in the title
has to be from Kopalyan.
Has to be from
Well, that's the kind of week we've had here in Armenia. Thank you for listening. Have a safe and peaceful weekend, and we will be back next week.